Today in my group, we'll talk about the proxy design pattern. So this is my group, including Pattern and Tư and me, Võ Công Minh. So let's dive into proxy pattern. So the proxy pattern provides an interface to another object by acting as surrogate or placeholder of it. A proxy or proxy object routes another object called the subject and controls access to it. Other objects called clients interact with the proxy instead of the real subject. The proxy receives this client request, does some work, and then forward the request to the subject. So about the problem in the real world. So a credit card is a proxy for bank account, which is a proxy for a bundle of cash. Both implement the same interface. They can use for making a payment. A customer feels great because there's no need to carry loads of cash around. A shop owner is also happy since the income from a transaction gets added electronically or automatically to the shop's bank account without the risk of losing the deposit or getting robbed on the way to the bank. So there are few common types of proxy. A protection proxy. A protection proxy controls access to the subject based on access rights. It only allows access to authorized users and blocks access for may authenticate users before allowing them to edit a document. Then, a remote proxy. A remote proxy acts as an interface to an object in a different address space. The proxy communicates with the remote object to carry out the operations. For example, proxies are often used to encapsulate remote procedure calls or web service codes. So then about the practical use of this proxy pattern. So in this implementation, we have defined the third-party YouTube link interface on the left, which defines three methods: list video and download video. Then we have defined the third-party YouTube class. This class catches the result of requests made to the third-party YouTube class and only delegates to it when necessary. So we have also defined the YouTube Manager class, which interacts with the third-party YouTube interface and provides the method render video page, render list panels, and react on user input. The Cache YouTube class is a proxy class that implements the same interface as the third-party YouTube link class. The Cache YouTube class is a proxy class that implements the same interface as the third-party YouTube link class. It maintains a cache of the result obtained from the actual service object. When an object, a method, is called on the Cache YouTube class object, it first checks if the result is already cached. If it is, it returns the cached result. Otherwise, it calls the corresponding method on the service object, caches the result, and then returns it. This helps to reduce the number of requests made to the actual service object. The YouTube Manager class is a client of the third-party YouTube link interface. It has a service object of type third-party YouTube link, which can be any implementation of the interface. It has methods to render a video. It has methods to render a video page and a list panel and to react to the user input. This method called the corresponding method of on the service object. Finally, the application class configures the proxy on the fly. It creates a third-party YouTube class object and passes it to a cached YouTube class object to create a proxy. It then creates a YouTube Manager object with proxy and call it on react on user input method to start the application. So then, about the advantages of the proxy pattern. Using the proxy pattern provides several benefits. First, it provides a placeholder for another object and can control access to it. Second, It adds an extra level of indirection, which can be useful in many situations. Third, it can delay expensive object creation and provide lazy initialization. Finally, it can restrict access to objects and represent an object located in another address space locally. However, there are a few downsides to keep in mind as well. First, the code can be more complicated with more layers of indirection. Second, the proxy itself needs to be maintained, adding to overall code complexity. Finally, the proxy may become a performance bottleneck if it does not catch result appropriately. In conclusion, we have discussed the proxy design pattern in depth. To review, the main purpose of the proxy pattern is to provide a surrogate object to control access to another object. Proxies receive client requests to perform additional operations like lazy initialization, access control, caching, remote communication, and firewalling, and then pass on the request to the subject. The proxy exposes the same interface as the subject so that it can be used interchangeably at runtime. The proxy pattern is useful for improving performance, controlling access, hiding complexity from client, and providing remote interfaces. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.